Welcome back to Real Estate with Mariah and Spence. Today we are sharing the top reasons why you want to be a homeowner, the benefits of homeownership, why you should make it a goal to buy a home sooner rather than later. And at the very end, we are going to break it down into practical steps and say you're someone listening to this and you want to be a homeowner, but you just have no clue where to start. At the very end, we're going to just break it down into very practical steps that you can begin taking today to make that goal of homeownership become a reality sooner rather than later.
And my name's Spencer. This is the podcast, Real Estate with Mariah and Spence. We talk all things real estate.
Yeah.
And we've been on here for going on over 2 years now. And whether you're a buyer or a seller, I really do believe it's an exceptional time in the real estate market to do things that we haven't been able to do in years now. I mean, we're seeing buyers' closing costs get paid for. We're seeing sellers get multiple offers again. So it's this really mixed of emotions really for sellers and buyers. And it's kind of our journey to help you get where you want to be. So if you have any real estate related questions, feel free to leave us a comment, but also come through our website. It should be listed in the description below, and we would be happy to hear from you.
Absolutely. The reason that I wanted to do this show today, it was kind of inspired by a phone call that I had with a first-time buyer who's in her early 20s and wants to be a homeowner that I was talking with earlier today and or earlier this week. And one of the questions that she asked me was, first, is it realistic? Do you work with people my age? Do people in their early 20s buy houses? And yes, it is realistic. We've worked with a good handful of people in their early 20s. Obviously, it's less common than working with people that aren't in their early 20s, but it definitely is possible.
You know what I've been, can I interject just a little bit? You
know
what I've been noticing though is people in their early 20s, even kids like outside of high school. It's funny I say kids. I'm not like that old. But like there's this recognition with home ownership, but there's like this responsibility side for individuals that wanted to go straight into trade school, start work and get their life on track. Just because if you're in college, not saying you're any less or anything, but there's different mindsets that people have. But I have been noticing something with the younger generations that are coming out of high school right now, especially through the last 3 years or so, is they do have a little different mindsets of let's just enter the workforce. Let's find a goal. Let's go own something, because I feel like there is something in the back of their mind saying, if I own a home, I could easily make 10, 20, 40, even 100 grand over the next 2 years while just living in something, putting a roof over my head. So we have been fortunate over the last few years to see homes appreciate so high. So that could be why these younger, youthful generations are thinking in this way.
And even just being able to, being in that position, someone who's a young person in your early 20s, owning a home, a lot of people in that age category have roommates anyway. Being able to be the one to own the home and rent the rooms out to your friends, roommates, whoever, and get paid every month, paying down your mortgage is such a smart move if you're able to make it happen. And I think a lot of young people, like this gal I was talking to on the phone, count themselves out too soon because they assume that they just can't make it work because they don't have, X amount of dollars saved. But we've helped many buyers buy homes without any money down. It's so possible. And but another thing I was going to say, going back to my phone call with her, was something that she asked me was, is right now a good time to buy a house or should I wait? And we've, this, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we've talked about this before on our show, but I really believe it's true that the best time to buy a house is when it works for you and when it makes sense for you. Or you could say the best time to buy a house is yesterday and the second best time is today. But really what I mean by that is there are pros and there are cons to any market. You could say right now is a bad time because interest rates are higher than they were last year. But I know many people were not wanting to buy last year when interest rates were, or 2 years ago when interest rates were historically low. And you could get a little bit lower of a payment, but you really had to pay. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say I wrote offer after offer, 50 grand plus over asking, not getting accepted. You had to, buyers were paying over appraisal value. Like, it was so competitive. So it's like, You can't have it all. If you want to have a super, super, super low interest rate without, just refinancing later at the time of buying, then you're going to have that competition. So there's pros and cons, and the best time to buy is when it makes sense for you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, well said.
Yes. Okay. So getting into these reasons why you want to buy a house. These are some of the benefits.
Good.
Okay. You build equity with each monthly payment. At the first bulk of your payment is applied to interest, or at first the bulk of your payment, that is applied to interest. But over time, the difference between your home's value and your remaining loan balance increases. The difference, that's called equity. And home equity can be conveyed to cash and used to purchase a vacation home or rental property. We've seen a lot of home sellers use their home equity to pay for their kids' college education, pay for improvements to the house that do add a value. Basically, it just gives you options. You have options when you have home equity.
Yeah.
So that's the first.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier in the show was, over the last 3-4 years, we've had some instant equity owners.
Insane. Like you buy it and then like a month later,
yeah, it appreciates. And 22% year over year. That's an insane figure, guys. And that's for just jumping in 5% down, living in something, having a roof over your head.
Right.
And I really loved what you said earlier, though, about is when you are younger and you're already going to have roommates. So what's the difference in buying something yourself, getting friends, having a roommate, just like you would have been paying a landlord, but now you are the landlord. I had multiple friends do that. One really good friend of mine, Wyatt, and then another really good friend of mine, Jacob. One did it in Jefferson, Oregon.
Yep.
He was fresh out of high school, got himself a trade job, traveled, saved up a ton of cash, bought a place, rented out by the room, didn't even live there most of the time.
Yeah.
And then he ended up selling it in this great economy. So he made hundreds of thousands of dollars on a simple investment just because he thought outside the box and differently than anybody else did. Not that he's the smartest man in the world, but he took a chance, but also he looked at it as if, man, this is easy. And then all of us friends, we got to hang out there and rent out a room, and that was it. It's history. We did that too.
We've talked about how we've done Airbnb. We did Airbnb in our previous homes that we owned. But when we got married at 19 and 20. So we were married in our early 20s, and we rented at one point when we weren't doing Airbnb with our home. We had 3-bed home. We rented the 2 spare bedrooms to people we knew, friends. Yeah. Each bedroom was rented out though. And I didn't really think of it like that at the time, but
right. I know
you're getting rent every month, and it is helping pay down your mortgage. So definitely a good option if you're someone who's in your early 20s and you're going to have roommates anyway. But this brings me to the next point, so we were talking about how homes, back when you could buy a home and then a month later you saw appreciation, like not even kidding. I don't think appreciation is going to continue. I don't think we're going to continue, obviously, to see that. We've already seen it slow down. Some areas have even seen prices go down just a teeny bit. But over time, if your home's value will rise over time. If you look at a graph of homes since the 1960s, home values increase the longer you own a home. That's called appreciation. So obviously, I don't want to paint the wrong picture because we have been in an extremely equity rich market. And ever since the time that we bought our first house, we were able to buy and sell 3 different times since then. And I think that we were very lucky in the timing because it was like the most equity rich timing like ever. But what I mean by that is homes were appreciating during that time. If we would have bought and then sold a year later and then bought and then sold a year later and done that multiple times in that short of a time frame, I think they would have appreciated, but not nearly as much as what we saw. I don't think it would have been because homes were appreciating so quickly. But overall, even if homes are not appreciating as fast, or if they're not appreciating just right now with how the market is, or if they depreciate a little over time, your home value will increase.
But that doesn't mean it's not a good time to buy either.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Whoa, screaming to the mic. She got very aggressive on that comment. But no, it is true. Just because we're not seeing the 22% increases year over year, we're projected to be at like 6 to 8% this year. That's a really good 6 to 8% on a $450,000 is the average sales price here in Oregon, roughly. 6% of that year over year. That's still a great increase. Think about it. That's the listing agent's commission in a lot of cases. If you were to sell in a year from now, that commission is deleted. We hear it all the time when we go into listing appointments. I hear it all the time when talking to for sale by owners is you got a commission. I can't afford your commission. And the thing that gets me every time is, do you realize like why your home is worth what it is? A, agents like us listing it for top dollar, people paying for it and it appraises. But then B, this is all free equity money that you have. Besides the mortgage payment you've been making month after month for how many years you've been living there, all of this is absolutely free, and it's inflation. And it's a really good thing to have an asset. I'm not saying it's bad, but when I hear people complain about a commission rate, and we're talking year over year, so 1 year of having a roof over your head, you just paid for a full broker's commission. When you do decide to sell it 2, 10, 20 years later, man, we might have problems, and that might be a little bit of greed happening. I'm all for saving money, though.
Yeah.
Come talk to me.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, so stability. When you own your home, your landlord can't kick you out. You can do whatever you want to the home as far as remodeling goes because it's yours. And when you do, you're adding value to it. And the best part is the landlord isn't going to raise your rent, which is obviously inevitable over time. Rent is only going to go up with inflation. And so owning your home protects you against that.
Can't deny that one.
Yeah, I love when I go into a seller's house and they bought their house in the 80s. And
best stories.
They have this, some good
Seriously,
stories.
it's so fun.
But they have this insanely low payment that they probably thought was high at the time when they bought the house. But because they bought the home and their payment didn't change, now, however many years later, they're able to still have that low payment. If they were renting, it would have just gone up and up and up, and they wouldn't have anything to show for when they were ready to move.
Which is so hard when you're a seller, because we're in it right now, though, is your payment is what it is. We bought, 2 years, going on 2 years ago now. Interest rates were what they were. We're at a 2.99% interest rate.
Crazy.
It's fun because I get to say, I got a 2% interest rate, but technically it's 3. Just round it up. But it makes it so hard to justify a refinance or a cash out refinance. Yeah. The cool part is, yes, you have equity, got equity. But when I hear stories about, man, I bought like 40 years ago, 30 years ago, or whatever, my payment's only $400 a month. It makes it so hard because like if you were to refinance, well, that payment's gone. But you do get cash. But then like say you were to resell, you just gained like a lot of equity, but like you're going to almost be like in a culture shock, especially if you're on a fixed income.
Oh, that's true. You're not used to this.
Based off the payments we see today, because the average sales price, like I said, is around $450 here in Salem alone. Unless you're buying something cash, it's reasonable, right? But there could be a culture shock there.
No, that's true. I didn't think about that. You're going to be not expecting the payments higher because you're so used to that. That's very true. Okay, so let's talk for a minute about how to do this. I want to own a home, but I don't know where to begin. Let's break it down into super practical steps. What we would tell someone who's maybe 18 or 20 and they want to be a homeowner as soon as possible. What would we tell them to do right now or to start doing right now to make that a reality? Okay. Do you want to hear what I
want to hear you first.
Okay. Yeah. And then say what you think. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So here's what I was thinking. Step number 1. So these are these are baby steps, but they're very practical. And I've realized after talking to a lot of young people, there are things that they aren't necessarily aware of. So this first one, go to a bank and open a savings account. Decide what amount of your monthly income you're going to contribute into this new account that is just for savings, whatever, is realistic for you, and then begin automatically saving that amount every month towards your new home. Next, if you haven't already, you need a couple lines of credit. That's something I've found a lot of young people aren't aware of around that age range, is that in order to buy a home, you have to have a couple lines of credit and you have to have had them for generally like a couple years. So start educating yourself, because on how to have excellent credit. I think that's super important. Get a credit card. But I feel like if I give that advice, especially, theoretically speaking to someone who's 18, at the same time, be educating yourself on how to use it wisely so it helps you and doesn't hurt you, because having good credit is really important when it comes to buying a home and your buying power. But you do need to have credit.
It makes or breaks you.
Yes. So use it wisely, learn how to use it, but you need to get it. A couple lines of credit. Step 2, have a steady job for a couple of years. You might not need it for as long as you expect. It never hurts to talk to a lender, but just know up front, if you're going to be jumping, this is another thing. I see so many young people right now I don't know if it's just like that. What's it called? The grass is greener on the other side, or like shiny object syndrome, but just don't want to stay at a certain job and just want to hop from job to job. But lenders don't like that. They like boring and stable. So if you, especially if you're hopping from, not necessarily from job to job, but especially if you're hopping from like different lines of work, like that aren't even in the same line of work, that doesn't look good. You want to be, I would say, ideally stay at the same job or at least the same line of work for 2 years is probably what you're going to need in order to get pre-qualified with a lender. So these are things like you need to know up front. So that's what I would say. Set up a meeting with a realtor and a lender. Set some goals for yourself that are realistic as to what you're going to need to save, and you can't really know necessarily what those goals are without talking to someone like a lender and a realtor to know. So that's my advice. I want to know what you think.
I do want to be honest though. All that advice was great. All of that advice was awesome. But the initial steps, like talking with a lender, for instance, or talking with a broker in our office and meeting up for the first time, there's so much information that is told. You really can't comprehend a lot of it. Your vocabulary, you've never heard some of this and out of the dictionary, like me. I mean, I raised my hand when we sold our first property. I didn't know what the heck was going on. I didn't know the contracts. I didn't know anything. So I was very confused. And then that's only the buying and selling side of the real estate. Let's talk about the money. The money portion, I believe, is one of the most biggest influences on make or break in the transaction. So if you're not comfortable with your lender, if you're not understanding what your lender is telling you, the information needed in order to process your loan. So you go to buy a house, you got $5,000 down, and the house costs $450,000. So you have to take a loan out for $445,000. So if you don't understand the steps it's going to take in order to get that $445,000 loan, then it's going to be a confusing but also stressful ride for you. And our goals to guide you in the buying process especially is to make this a successful, smooth transaction, but like for you to have fun, but also understand it. And I guarantee you're going to be a little overwhelmed at times, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm encouraging you not to do is to get so overwhelmed, you shut down, you quit answering emails, you quit answering texts, you don't answer your phone, and you just give up and you continue to be in your rental situation currently and you pay the same amount in a mortgage rate that you're paying in a rental rate. And it makes absolutely no sense.
Some people handle stress that way, Spencer.
I know. So if that's you, though, and there's no shame in just voicing that. Some people, they just walk away, they never voice it. And I know exactly kind of where you've been and where you're at right now. And you're frustrated, you're confused. But if you're not saying, hey, I'm not understanding this, call yourself stupid, call yourself dumb, whatever. Use those terms. That tells me we need to do a better job. And that is our goal. So whether it's the lending side, buying side, we're here to help you. We deal with a lot of transactions. We are top producers here in Oregon, and we just want to help you buy or sell property. We are in that swing market, and as I would say on a phone call this morning from one of our out-of-state clients, and really good opportunities are happening around us right now here in Oregon. And mortgage rates are right where they need to be, affordable, and sales prices are where I believe they really need to be, and inflation rates are trying to just table out or even go down. So the feds are trying their best and doing a decent job economically with that, I believe.
One more thing that just came to me that I wanted to end with was a piece of advice that I received from a client that I have. I love when my clients that I get to work with, whether they're, home sellers or home investors that I've worked with through the years, give me advice, especially when they're, quite a bit older than me. And so when I was new in real estate, one of my sellers, he was, I think, in his 80s, and he had done really, really well in life. And one of his pieces of advice, he said, the best piece of advice I can give you as far as real estate goes is buy everything and sell nothing, which sounds a little extreme.
Why not?
But basically what he was trying to say is if you buy and hold, then you'll win. And so that's the thing with real estate is it's the safest investment. You don't need to be scared. If your goal is to buy it and you're okay with owning it long term, then you're going to be okay and it's going to work out. And I think that's just because I just wanted to say this because this show kind of has gone the direction of being geared toward like younger people, especially when it comes to owning real estate. I think the earlier and sooner that you can buy something, the better. And you buy and hold, you can't lose. Yeah.
No, that's great advice.
Yeah.
If you're still listening to this video, thank you for following us all the way to the end. I hope you got some type of advice, whether you're a buyer or seller. I think we were geared towards more buying side today.
Definitely.
But if you need to ask a real estate related question, we are here. Leave a comment below. But like I said, the best way for you guys to contact us is going to be through our website, vetriscrawfordrealty.com. That's vetriscrawfordrealty.com. And you can create your own profile. All we need is your name and email, basically, and we can do all the rest for you. But our websites are really cool and easy to navigate. We've made it as simple and easy and convenient as possible for you. We only put like 4 or 5 icon drop-down bars. Or,
very simple
for our website. So if that's you, go there, vetriscrawfordrealty.com. That's vetriscrawfordrealty.com. And we would love to connect.
Yes. We'll see you guys next week.